Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving, na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB. Be yourself, see yourself. This is a show of people. Belize our hopes up to needless reason. Nobody feel left out. Is the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love, respect, unselfishness and cooperation. That's how we need to build a strong nation. We are the people to make the changes. We are the changes. WB. And all the things that will happen like I got blue skies. I love to make people get victimized. Let's work together for better. We got to unite. Belize, yeah. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving, na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB. Get up, make every day count. Don't waste it, people. Do your part, play a role, get where you need to. You can tune in from work or in your vehicle. If you got a problem, pick up the phone. Why wait? It's a time calling. It's a show with no matter even if you're at home. Just call in. WB. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving, na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB. Be yourself, see yourself. This is a show of people. Belize our hopes up to needless reason. Nobody feel left out. Is the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love, respect, unselfishness and cooperation. That's how we need to build a strong nation. We are the people. Changes, we are the changes. WB. And all the things that will happen like I got blue skies. I love to make people get victimized. Let's work together for better. We got to unite. Belize, yeah. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving, na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize.
And we welcome you this morning. This is WUB, Wake Up Belize, Morning Vibes. It's a Friday morning. It's the 4th day of April 2025. My name is Nuri Muhammad, and we welcome you to the program this morning. As we say, we make sure that the show is always engaging. We want to hold you from now until 9 o'clock. And we hope that you stay. Even though you don't call, we want you to be engaged in the conversation that we've lined up for you this morning. As you know, we go into certain preliminaries before we get to the main course. We start with a weather outlook, which is beautiful weather from my perspective. I don't know how it is in your corner, but certainly we have nice, beautiful breeze, and it's hot, but it's sweet and nice. As far as I'm concerned, it's kind of a biased opinion there. Miss Crystal Rosales will bring us up to date. Crystal?
Good morning. A strong, dry east to southeasterly airflow prevails over the country. In the 24-hour forecast, skies will be mostly sunny today and then mostly clear tonight. No rainfall is expected. High temperatures today will reach around 89 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 96 degrees Fahrenheit inland, and then 82 degrees Fahrenheit in the mountains. Low temperatures for tonight will reach around 82 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 75 degrees Fahrenheit inland, and then 68 degrees Fahrenheit in the hills. Winds over the open sea will be from the east to southeast at 15 to 25 knots and higher gusts, while sea conditions will be rough to very rough. So please note that a small craft warning remains in effect, and operators of small crafts are advised to remain in safe harbor. And then low tides occur at 7:46 this morning and at 10:35 tonight. High tides at 2:18 this afternoon and then at 5:11 tomorrow morning. The moon will rise at 11:08 this morning and then set at 12:55 tomorrow morning, while sunset is at 6:06 this evening and sunrise at 5:44 tomorrow morning. And in the extended forecast, similar weather conditions will continue for Saturday and Saturday night, while in the fire risk forecast, the risk for brush and forest fires will remain high, especially over northern and central areas on Saturday. This has been this morning's weather report from the National Meteorological Service.
Private radio in Belize since 1989. Creme FM presents the news. Informative, accurate, current information, local, regional, and international news, weather and sports. And now, the news.
Has imposed a flat 10% tariff on all countries, including Belize. Tariffs are taxes that are imposed on goods which are imported from other countries. This decree becomes effective Saturday, April 5, effective April 9. Individualized reciprocal high tariffs will be imposed on countries with which the United States has the largest trade deficits or who impose heavy tariffs on U.S. goods. No. We're not... All right. Effective Saturday, April 5th, effective April 9th, individualized reciprocal high tariffs will be imposed on countries with which the United States has the largest trade deficits or who impose heavy tariffs on U.S. goods. Trump's executive order indicates that he can increase the tariffs if trading partners retaliate, or he can decrease them if those partners move to remedy the non-reciprocal trade arrangements and align with United States on economic and national security issues, end of quote. Countries around the world are scrambling to plan a way forward in the face of a global trade war being unleashed by Trump with these tariffs. April 2nd, Liberation Day President Trump called April 2nd Liberation Day, declaring a national emergency to strengthen the economic position of the United States and to protect American workers through responsive tariffs. At an almost 1 hour long the White House Rose Garden, where he signed the decree, Trump described it as ushering in economic independence for the United States to make America great again. He said that the nation can prosper by putting the trillions of dollars gained towards reducing taxes and paying down its national debt.
My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day, waiting for a long time. April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again. We're going to make it wealthy, good and wealthy. For decades, our country has been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by nations near and far, both friend and foe alike. American steel workers, auto workers, farmers, and skilled craftsmen, we have a lot of them here with us today. They really suffered gravely. They watched in anguish as foreign leaders have stolen our jobs, foreign cheaters have ransacked our factories, and foreign scavengers have torn apart our once beautiful American dream. We had an American dream that you don't hear so much about. You did 4 years ago, and you are now, but you don't too often, and for many years and decades even, you didn't hear too much about. Our country and its taxpayers have been ripped off for more than 50 years. But it is not going to happen anymore. It's not going to happen. In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world. Reciprocal, that means they do it to us and we do it to them. Very simple. Frankly, it's very upsetting when you read it, when you see what people have been doing to us for 30 years. This all happened with no response from the United States of America, none whatsoever. But those days are over. Let me offer just a few examples of the vicious attacks our workers have faced for so many years. The United States charges other countries only a 2.4 tariff on motorcycles. Meanwhile, Thailand and others are charging much higher prices, like 60%. India charges 70%. Vietnam charges 75%, and others are even higher than that.
The tariffs include a 25% tariff on all foreign-made vehicles that the United States imports. Late in the afternoon, Minister of State Christopher Coy reported that the government of Belize convened an emergency meeting with all relevant line ministries and government agencies to discuss the matter. He shared that at this time they are engaging in a data gathering process nationally and regionally to assess the potential impacts.
But to the extent that they apply to our exports, and especially our key exports, we have to look at how we go about mitigating the impact of those tariffs, and even consider what opportunities may arise. It's something that is relative. If the baseline is applied across to all countries, then relatively speaking, we are not in any worse off position so far as our exports are concerned. It's from a relative standpoint where some might be exempted and others are not, then we have to look at how it adversely affects us. So there are a lot of there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of moving parts. So it's hard to just give you anything definitive at this point. But at the same time, as we are doing the analysis and foreign trade in particular, as they are doing that analysis, the key exports are what we are focusing in on. Belize's key exports to the US, they're what we're focusing in on and looking at what is the best approach for those key exports. The approach might not be the same one export to the next. At the local level, prior to this, work has been done or is being done in terms of what to expect, analyzing based on those expectations. Foreign trade has been putting in a lot of work on that score. From the macro level, the central bank has been looking at this as well. Now, beyond that, definitely there have been discussions. I believe there are expected further discussions on the multilateral level through CARICOM. As I understand it, there is a meeting, I believe tomorrow, of CARICOM heads, and I'm sure this will be an important agenda item. April 9th, there is also to be a further meeting of CARICOM. I think that will be more technical discussions, and the US tariff will be a key agenda item for discussion on that. In preparation for that, I believe foreign trade is doing quite a bit of analysis, and we'll have those engagements with our key exporters to the US to appreciate what are their concerns and what advocacy they are looking forward to.
We asked the minister about the potential that inflation will increase based on our importation of goods whose manufacturing countries may be facing increased tariffs from the United States.
You can look at our data reflecting the inflation in Belize. You could see that the inflation has been moving downward. I think in the last month it was 1.6%. So it's certainly on a downward trajectory. Yes, there is quite a bit of discussion on the inflationary effects of these tariffs in the US. And as they say, when the US sneezes, we catch a cold. Certainly, if there is inflation, substantial inflation in the US, we can expect that it will have an impact through the imports that we get from the US. It will have an impact on Belize, an inflationary effect on Belize. I wouldn't want to say that inflation is a matter of, or heightened inflation is a matter of certainty, because we're talking about tariffs, and you've seen what has happened with the back and forth on tariffs with Canada and Mexico and EU and all of that over the past couple of months. There's a proposition, and then there's adjustments to that proposition. So I kind of think that there will be some adjustments, and there will be back and forth. I'm sure there will be some challenges, but I think we will make headway, and that's from the Belize standpoint. I do expect that there will be some resolution over time in the US as well. There will be an impact in the meantime, and whether it in fact is inflationary is yet to be determined, because that's an assumption that the economy will be growing at its pace, and so you will have an add-on. But if the tariffs in fact have a slow growth or slows the growth in the US, then demand, macroeconomic demand actually will fall, and so the effect of tariff, the inflationary effect of tariff, will be offset by that. So it's yet to be determined. I can't say that it will actually be inflationary at this point.
He addressed the American people on Wednesday. US President Donald Trump stated that the sweeping tariffs he was introducing will help build back the US economy, as they will force Americans to buy US-produced products. Jody Williams, the Vice President of the of Commerce at the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry, BCCI, and the Export Sales Director at Marie Sharp's Fine Foods Limited, explained that in Belize, we would also be affected by the tariffs imposed on other countries. Williams explained that some of the products we import from the U.S. rely on items that are imported into the U.S. from other countries, and that is how the tariffs imposed on other countries would affect Belize.
All these years, there was 0% tax for food products from Belize into the US. Now, that's no longer the case. Now, for our partners in the US, our importers, they have to pay a 10% new tariff rate and cost for importing, let's say, food products from Belize. Definitely, we increase inflation. And how it works is, right, on the export side, for example, this would definitely mean with exporters of Belize, sales will definitely slow down, because there's a new 10% tariff that they would pay for products. So definitely exporters like us, we would have to either raise prices in order to absorb that increase, or our partners in that country would also have to raise price on the consumer there. Now let's look at someone in the United States who imports packaging materials and other materials from India, from Mexico, in order to do their final product. Let's say bottles, boxes, and so forth. They would definitely pay higher tariffs on these packaging materials, even though they do the final packaging in the US, right? So now when we are getting these products from the US to Belize, all these tariffs and these extra costs will be added to that product that's coming to Belize. So, if we like that butter coming from the United States, food products, that ham, definitely will continue to see rise in prices of goods and also products who definitely outsource materials from other countries who are being, where these taxes are being imposed on.
Williams, in his capacity at Marie Sharp, said that his company would need to look at other markets such as Dubai and Japan. However, he said that these markets are already affected by global events such as wars and post-COVID effects. He also explained that since the tariffs are put immediately into effect, goods and products already in transit will be affected.
The US is one of our largest partners in importing and also exporting. And definitely a countermeasure is trying to look for new markets that is not the US. But we get many tourists mostly from the US as well. They eat our products here and they take back. So, there's a trickle effect. For us, definitely, we have to look at other markets like Dubai, like Japan. But guess what's happening? Like in Japan and other markets, they are already been hit hard with post-COVID, the war in Ukraine and Russia, high inflation. So the US market was kind of booming, but it is said now that the US is headed for a recession if Trump continues on with these decision making. And the thing is here as well, we don't have any certainty whether this reciprocal 10% tariff will be permanent. Is it only short term? Right now, as we speak, we have some officials in the US who are proposing bills to say that, Trump didn't do the process. You needed to take this 60-day process into Congress for it to be approved and so forth. So let's see what happens. It would either stay or it will go away. Until then, definitely persons in the US will not be buying our products. They will wait and see if this 10% will go. But guess what? Products that are already on the sea or already arriving in the US, they must pay that 10%. So goods coming from the US as well will be higher in price.
Williams said that should the tariffs remain enforced, government leaders would need to meet with US officials, although he admits it would be difficult to negotiate as a developing country. He said the region should come together to have a better leverage at the negotiating table.
The US, they are a superpower. There are other countries like China and Canada and Mexico that could counter, right? They counter back with their own new tariffs. But us in Belize, we are not we're not a superpower. We're still a developing nation, so we can't tell the US, guess what, we're gonna increase this on you unless you try. But definitely, it's good to have our leaders sit down with the US officials and to dialogue. That it starts with dialogue and getting to see what could be done, because honestly, we are a developing nation. We import a lot of food products and other products. We're still developing, and definitely, they can. It's hard for a big country to levy taxes on us when we are a developing nation, for sure. More than ever, I think the region needs to come together as one CARICOM and also Central America, and which includes Belize, because alone it's hard to really sit down and talk and negotiate with the US. So definitely we need to collaborate on that.
So, one of the expected consequences of US President Donald Trump's introducing importation tariffs against the world is the increase in inflation. With that in mind, Williams is advising Belizeans to consider buying local products. For those products and goods that Belize does not produce, Williams said we may need to look at products produced in Mexico, Central America, and CARICOM as replacements.
It's definitely to shop local, to really look at what is your wants and your needs when it comes to spending, and also having an emergency security money aside for anything that could happen. We know with all these tariffs, this is happening not only in Belize, but worldwide. Everything will continue to go up. We are already facing high prices as we speak. So, now we need to really sit down and say, do I need to get that new radio or that new phone, or do I put up my money for food products? Do I invest into my children's education? Because now guess what? For every $100 that you now have in your hand, it's becoming less and less. Groceries on your, back then you could have go with a $50 bill and buy all the groceries you need. But now it's more than $100 for that same amount of groceries. And now we might trade off that Frosted Flakes and buy a Sucaritas. Because guess what? The Sucaritas and the Frosted Flakes could be the same size, the same product, but one is made in Mexico or Guatemala, but definitely the Frosted Flakes would probably cost you about $4 to $5 more on the shelf than the Sucaritas. So definitely we will see more Central American products come into Belize due to these things.
Williams also explained that every sector is expected to feel the effects of the tariffs. He said that another effect could potentially be employees being laid off, as companies will need to reevaluate the new cost of doing business.
If evaluation is done and money is less, definitely it could happen. Us as Belizeans and businesses now, we have to look at where the money is going, where we invest, and also where do we buy our products. Do we try to purchase more products from Guatemala to bring into Belize, like cereals, milk, things that we need, because honestly, if anything coming from the US as well, it will be not only higher shipping prices, but these tariffs are being imposed on packaging materials entering the US as well. And then the thing is too that, tourist season is so booming right now. So some persons might say, guess what? Well, tourism is high, so it won't affect us. But guess what? When tourists come and they go to the restaurant and the restaurant has to raise their price on food, hotels have to go up, then we say, hey, guess what? Belize is too expensive for me to come. Due to this rising cost, maybe I go to a neighboring country. So it's a domino effect in every industry, whether small business, medium, or large, and we will see the effects.
And that's our news package for this morning, April 4th, 2025. There's more news coming up in the program that follows us, which is the Morning Stew that comes on a little bit after 12 o'clock at the end of that program. There's a news brief at 3 o'clock and a full news broadcast at 5:15, both on CREM Radio. Here on XTV, we bring you the full news broadcast at 6 o'clock this evening. It's now 3 minutes after 7 o'clock. I think our guests are already here. We'll take a short break and we'll be back.
The first private radio in Belize
All right, welcome back. This is WUB, Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes on a Friday morning. And we're going to talk sports now. We have two representatives to talk about this event taking place this weekend, the cycling event. We have representative from the Belize Cycling Federation, or I should put it the other way, the Cycling Federation of Belize, the treasurer, Mr. Eduardo Villanueva, and we have the BEL representative, Mr. Khalil Enriquez, who had just to find out that this is Jerry's son. So Jerry, you got me on this one. Welcome to both of you. Let me start, since it's an event sponsored by BEL. Can I? Yeah, so let me hear from the BEL representative. What are you doing here? What is this about? Is this the first time or is this a yearly event?
Good morning, and good morning to the viewers as well. So, BEL has been a long-standing supporter of the Cycling Federation of Belize.
Okay.
So, since 2014, we have been collaborating with the Cycling Federation to host the BEL Junior Cross Country Cycling Classic. Okay. In 2015, we became a title sponsor. So we fully take it over financially, and we provide the prizes, and we host the race fully.
Okay.
So we have been doing this for over 10 years now.
Okay.
So embedded in our mission, we want to give back to the communities we serve, and we care about national development and productivity of enterprise.
Very
So
good.
what better way to contribute to national development than by investing in our young people and our youth? So one of the pillars that we also invest in when it comes to community outreach is sports. Youth development and sports are very important and very pivotal in nation building. So when the Federation approached us to host this race, we are always willing to lend support and lend sponsorship and whatever resources we can to make this a success.
All right, that sounds excellent presentation about BEL's involvement. Eduardo, as a federation, you're responsible for much more than just this particular race. You got the big one coming up in a very short time. But tell us a little bit about your sponsorship or your umbrella organization that sponsors races like these.
Okay, good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, Belize. Good morning, viewers. Yes, we're at the Cycling Federation of Belize. We have different classics throughout the year, starting with the New Year's Classic, sponsored by CREM,
Right.
and then it goes on to different races and leading up to races later on in the year, November. So we, as a Cycling Federation, we do a lot to keep races going in terms of working with sponsors to make races possible. And we also, this year, we're doing training programs for the youths. We're starting a training program. Last year, we sent out a couple junior riders for training in Trinidad to the UCI training camp. And we sent out a coach for training and a mechanic. Yeah, so we're grateful when we have sponsors or companies that work with us, as in BEL. It means a lot. And while a lot of sponsors would want to go out and brand themselves with a big Holy Saturday cross country race, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
We have BEL who works with us to support the junior riders, because they will one day be a big name in the Holy Saturday cross country.
Indeed,
It starts somewhere,
Yeah.
and they've been helpful in that. So we're very thankful for them. We have been having races for the junior females as well. We've been trying to encourage more females to start into cycling. This year we're hosting the BEL Junior Cross Country, and we're having 2 races. We're having the junior male from Sokots, 76 miles to Belize City, and we're having the junior youth female from Cotton Tree, 43 miles to Belize City.
Very good, very good.
Yep.
Do you also sponsor, or not sponsor so much, but are you also encouraging more races from the south? I mean, Toledo I know I saw a race not too long ago coming up the Hummingbird Highway. Someone telling me it didn't come from as far as, well, tell me about it, because I don't want to go with what I heard.
Yeah, most recently we had a race called Rumble in the Tropics. We started out in Stan Creek, just before that 6 Mile Junction to Dangriga. And we came up the Hummingbird Highway through Belmopan, came into Belize City. At the moment, we don't have any races in the way down in PG side.
All right.
It costs to have a race, and especially to move the entire body of all the race officials and everything.
Right.
And
but with sponsorship, certainly.
with sponsorship, yes. But what we also try to do is to move the races into areas that we have more riders situated, because while it's cost for us, it's also cost to them.
The rider himself and their sponsors to get them down.
Yeah, like for example, we do a race in PG. It would be a big cost to the riders from up north to have their team mobilized, and probably would involve accommodation for a night to be out there early.
Clearly.
Yeah. So
do you also do, say, locally sponsored races with just riders in that area so that they can get an exposure?
No,
Not yet.
no, not at the moment.
Right,
Yeah.
What about the controversy of bringing in riders from outside? I know you're probably tired of hearing this over.
Yeah.
Now I remember there was a time when there was a big upheaval, this Belizean race, why we make people come from outside. But I think that has passed now. We've accepted that we're going to be having non-Belizean riders. But can you comment on that? Is that still a controversy?
It is always a topic, and it is discussed very much in the cycling community amongst ourselves as a federation, the team managers, the riders, and at the moment we are allowing foreigners. We're not allowing local teams to bring foreign riders.
I see. So you're saying the foreign riders would have to register themselves, but many times I see them riding with a team. So how does that work?
Yeah, how it works is that foreigners would come, and they would come through their local federation, because each country have a cycling federation.
Right.
So their federation, or they would contact us through their federation, sent in a letter to say they're in good standings and they request permission to come and race.
Okay.
It's mainly for the Holy Saturday cross country race they want to come.
Okay.
It's a long race. It's one of the longest races in this hemisphere. It has a lot of prizes and it attracts a lot of riders. But there's a vetting process in place where if yes, we want to, and we do it, let me go back a bit. We do it with the intention to have the riders exposed to a different level, or to competitors to foreign competition, and usually the foreigners are considered to be stronger riders. But we don't want to bring somebody else who is like way completely higher over their level, and then just dominate and discourage the riders. So we have a vetting process. In cycling, there's different categories that you fit in based on your performance, and we look at that when a rider submits an application or a request to come. Our vetting team looks at what they've been doing recently, that kind of stuff, to see that yes, they might be within range of their guys, or not completely way up above. That's how it works. But there's always a discussion, and we insist on keep doing it, because our riders most recently have not only, and it's always been, but we've been having a lot of riders going abroad now. So for them, in order for them to go on compete abroad, they also need to compete with foreigners at home to build themselves. Yeah.
Are you a rider yourself, Enriquez?
Not yet, but all the work and collaboration with the federation and seeing how exciting cycling is, I want to join myself.
You might get drawn in.
Right, right.
Is it, when you say sponsorship, are you sponsoring the race itself, or do you have particular riders out of the...
No, we're sponsoring the entirety of the event, all the logistical costs, all the prizes. So everything that goes into the race, BEL picks up the tab and covers that.
And what does that, is there a dollar figure that you can share with us on that?
You know, it's in the tens of thousands of dollars.
It's in the tens of thousands of dollars.
And as you could see on the screen there, every year we're trying to make the race bigger and better. So for the past 2 years, we have added drone imagery to the race. So that gives viewers a different vantage point to view the race. So we will have, viewers will have the ability to see it from the drone, from the ground with live coverage. So whether you're watching from the diaspora or locally, this is something that's very new to Belize, showing this imagery from that vantage point from above, from the drone. So we think the cycling fans will be very excited about that.
What do you do as a federation to ensure that we don't end up with spills, which can be very, very dangerous? I ask this in view of the fact that some of the vehicles passing and trying to be with their rider sometimes look like it's hazardous. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, there's a process, and normally when the race is happening, we have all the service vehicles, and they are assigned a number. We refer to it as the race caravan. They are assigned a number based on a team. Like, let's say, for example, you have team A, B, and C. So we'll have all the service vehicles assign a number 1, 2, 3, and they will ride behind that peloton of riders in that order. In the event that a rider needs servicing, and first of all, we have a servicing zone. Earlier part of the race, it is closed because it is expected that the rider will start the race with 2 fresh bottles and have enough for the first couple of miles until the race settles. Because when the race settles, it normally starts hard and it's a bit difficult. Everybody is trying to find their place or trying to settle into the race. So service vehicles are not allowed to be up along with the riders at that point. And once the service zone is declared open by the race commissaire, a rider can raise their hand up. The commissaire, we have radio communications with all the vehicles. The commissaire would call on the radio to say team such and such as a rider is calling for a service, permission is granted. That vehicle will come up, pull out of its assigned number, go right up to the rider behind. That rider that raised their hand, they're asked to fall behind the back, behind the rear of the peloton, and their vehicle can go up to the rear and give them service, 30 seconds, and they need to get out.
This is a question that maybe just people clearly outside of understanding the race itself. You are allowed with a puncture to pull to the side and to get your tire replaced, etc. Is there any other mechanical problem on your bike that you can deal with, or can you change bike?
You are allowed to change a bike if your gear fails, or you have and what we've seen is that these newer bicycles, it's not like a quick release thing anymore to just change a wheel. They come with disc brakes, and it takes some unwinding to get that wheel off. So a lot of the riders who can afford it now, they carry a spare bike. So in the event that they get a flat, they raise their hand,
get a new bike without
get a new bike, and they go on.
And then you got somebody in the back who can repair that bike.
Correct. And if that is their favorite bike or their preferred bike, then it can be given back to them.
All right, well, let's get some closing comments, because I know you have other media to fit. I'll go back to you, Mr. Enriquez. This is you've been sponsoring this race. BEL has been sponsoring this race
since 2014.
Since 2014. So you're well over 10 years now, going on 11 years. and you will continue, no doubt, to continue to sponsor this race. Are you thinking about sponsoring other races, or are you also thinking about helping in terms of training and bringing on new riders who have not gotten yet, like youth riders, female riders? Is that how wide your sponsorship will go?
Definitely. Like I mentioned before, every year we're trying to make this event bigger and better. So over the past 2 years, we've also added a female youth category. So that encourages female riders to also get into this sport and this discipline.
There are no females in this particular ride?
Yeah, so we're going to be having females in this race on Sunday as well.
Also?
Yeah, so different categories. We're going to be having youth female, male, and as well we're going to be having a separate race for kids. But it's not good. The kids one isn't a part of the official federation event. So in front of the
get
BL,
an experience in the ride.
Right. So in front of the BL headquarters, we're going to be having kids races for kids as young as 3 years old to 11.
Really?
So that's going to be conducted around the headquarters on the Philip Wilson Highway.
Yes.
So like Mr. Villanueva mentioned earlier, it's very important to have kids participate and feel that community support.
Clearly.
As early as possible, because a lot of these guys, they will be growing up and they'll be participating in these major events, the major cross-country international races. So as young as possible, we want to give them that support, that encouragement, and even the platform for them to be able to showcase their talent and skills and to further develop it.
Very good. Very good. Thank you very much, Khalid. In you giving the last word, Mr. Villanueva, also give us where this race will start, where the race will end, and any other area that you didn't discuss this morning.
Yeah. Let's start with the male junior youth. We will be starting by the Sokots by the ferry.
Okay.
The road is a bit rough for the first mile or so, so we'll have a lead out, meaning like just the riders will ride but not start the race yet, and then we'll start the race
once you get on the smooth road.
Right, yeah. Right. That will be a total of 76 miles. They will ride from there, pass through San Ignacio, come up the highway into Belize City, Chatamal Boulevard, and go and finish in front of the BL corporate headquarters.
Okay.
For the junior youth male, we have 37 riders signed up so far. Well, registration is closed, so that is the final list. We have 2 foreign riders coming in, 2 young men from Guatemala sign up, and they will be here. Okay.
Do they have to pay the federation, by the way, to sign up?
Yes.
Right.
There's
so
a registration.
That's not covered by BEL.
Yeah, no. The rider pays a registration fee for the race. How much is that registration? The registration fee is $50 per rider.
Okay. Male or junior, anyone?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Okay. For the foreigners who come to participate for races in Belize, they naturally pay twice the amount that the Belizean would pay.
So that's $100.
Yes, yeah. Okay. So we have 37 riders in the male category. We have 8 teams. We have 4 unattached riders. We have 13 station prizes.
The male, the junior will start from where, you said?
In Sokots by the ferry.
They will also start from Sokots.
The male.
Okay.
The male. We have 2 different categories.
I'm looking at the junior. That's what I want to find out. Where will the juniors start? At the same junction?
Okay. Let's start from the top.
All right.
We have it's a race for the youths. We have male and we have female.
Okay.
In the male category and in the female category, we have 2 subcategories. They are either a junior rider or a youth rider. 16 and below is considered a youth rider, and under 18 and under is considered a junior rider.
Okay, gotcha.
So in the male category, we're having junior and youth. We have 27 junior riders and 10 youth riders in the male category. Okay. Then the female side now, we will be starting in Cotton Tree, and that will be a total of 43 miles. Same road, come up the highway into the Chatamal Boulevard.
Ending at BL.
Ending in front of BL. Okay. Yeah, we have 7 riders signed up so far. We have no foreign competition in that race. And we have these young girls have been putting in their training, so We look forward to a good showing by them.
Yes.
We have 8 station prize in that category. BL has done
26.
a lot. Yeah,
Are you going to tell us about the station prize, or it's just left it like that?
We can go a bit. What BL tried to do, and I think it's a good thing, as part of maintaining BL, we try to encourage the station prize, or put the station prizes, for example, at their substations along the highway.
Very good.
Yeah, like for example, we have Democracia, we have at the in Kamalote, the 8 miles.
Which gives them a little.
Very
good. Very good.
And of course we have
kind of quid pro quo, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And of course we have a couple at other places, but we try to put them along those roads.
Right.
They have one up in Contiki, in just exiting San Ignacio. So yeah, that's where we have them.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you very much, brothers. I think this race is one in many races.
Yes.
I could remember a time when we only used to look forward to cross country, and then Crim Classic came in and blew up the thing, and everybody want their race now. So this is good. You know, it is one of our. I almost say mano mano, but they're not mano mano anymore. It's a race for athletes. It's an incredible race because it's you and your bike. And that is a test of real strength. So thank you very much, Mr. Enriquez from BEL, and thank you very much, Mr. Villanueva from the Cycling Federation of Belize.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
All right, we'll take our break. We go to 2 Cents Cam with Brick City, that is sponsored by Fort Point Security, and we'll be back with our second guest.
You're watching WUB, and it's Friday, Big Up Friday, each and every Friday. And this Friday, I decide if we're gonna big up the man there, we dig the grave. So that the my 2 cents, make we do some big up on this Friday, and big up the bridge in there, that is cemetery. Big up Friday, brother, who you want big up?
Yeah, man, that's why I big up the graveyard crews and the co-workers, you know. Yeah. Big up me all about the pan the grand and sell the council, that's the same way too, you know.
That big up?
Yes, man.
All right.
You know, the lady of my life, yeah. Big up my workers and working me and so forth. You don't know, big up cemetery.
All right.
Good.
Enough respect to my family at home and best all day long.
Yeah. Who you want to big up on the Friday?
On this Friday, the first person I want to big up is my old lady, my wife, my kids, and my co-workers there from the cemetery crew.
There, you're big up.
My big up.
Tired of replacing light bulbs? LEDs are what you need. LEDs last up to 30,000 hours. That's 30 times longer than incandescent bulbs, and up to 8 times longer than compact fluorescents. So less changing and less trash. Planet Earth thanks you. And the LED experts at Brothers Habet and Habet will help you find the best LED solution with colors for every room and mood, starting as low as $6.95. You can even get LED strips for home, office, and industrial use. So say goodbye to fluorescent tubes forever. And because they use up to 90% less energy, you save money. Money you can spend on other things. So head to Brothers Habet or Habet and Habet today. You can also call, email, or Facebook us. Have a brilliant day.
I'm Randall Friesen, and I manage Westville Produce, better known as Granny's Foods. That's our main brand. So we offer high-quality grains, beans, rice, and we also offer corn chips made from 100% locally grown corn. We saw a need for high-quality, locally produced products. a lot of the best products are being exported, and we said, you know, we need to keep some of the best products here in Belize rather than export everything. Atlantic Bank has helped us achieve our goals by providing the financing for us to be able to launch products faster than we would without the financing that they offer. We find that Atlantic Bank is very customer friendly, especially with small and medium-sized businesses. We find that Atlantic Bank is more than willing to go the extra mile. They try to understand your business, so when we go to Atlantic Bank with a certain need, we find that they try to develop a solution that will meet our specific need. I would encourage any small business owner to go to Atlantic Bank for their financial services. They're very friendly, and just overall, their service is excellent.
Years ago, we built a company that is about more than just connection through technology. We've been partners in progress, empowering communities, nurturing growth, and strengthening bonds. We've grown together, lifting not just businesses, but dreams, not just communities, but families. Because true success isn't measured in years, but in the lives we've touched, the opportunities we've created, and the connections we've made together.
As a smart customer for the past 18 years, they have provided me with exceptional value and connected me to the most significant moments in my life.
For 20 years, Smart has been a pioneer in telecommunication innovation, from offering services in underserved areas to launching promotions that increase your connectivity.
They go beyond calls. They're committed to a brighter future for us all. That's why I'm proud to stand behind them.
As we look ahead, our mission to enrich your lifestyle with affordable, innovative, and cutting-edge wireless communication solutions is stronger than ever. We'll continue to connect what matters most, you. Smart, celebrating 20 years of bringing people together.
Tired of appliances that just don't last? Appliances that just can't keep up? It's time for a change. GE Appliances delivers reliability, innovation, and performance you can trust. The decision is easy. Don't settle for less. Choose quality, choose reliability, choose GE. Paid for by homeowners who demand better appliances.
All right, welcome back. This is WUB, Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes on a Friday morning, the 4th day of April 2025. We welcome you now to engage with us. Our telephone numbers, you see it on the screen, is 280-5848, and you're welcome to call. And some of you may have wanted to call yesterday with G Mike and you didn't get a chance. You do have the chance now to do that. The latest edition of the Amandala newspaper is out. Headlines: U.S. 10% tax may increase inflation in Belize. Inflation simply means that costs will go up. And as you heard in our news segment this morning, the representative from the BCCI is saying, just in terms of how this thing will work out, that we may be looking at increased prices, especially for those goods that we import into the country. Welcome, caller. Welcome, caller.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh Nuri Mohammed.
Yes, walaikum salam.
Greetings in the name of Allah. Bungiyo is Garifana from Allah. I just want to ask a quick question and have your opinion, because our opinion is only our opinion. We know they tell the world that everything we say, that's how it go. But my question, I heard on the news on a different station last night, Belizean station, that after you go through all the expenses of installing a solar panel at your home or wherever you need it, in the land of the free, you still have to pay the government for installing that, which means BEL for installing that?
I don't know the answer to that, sir. Unfortunately, we had a representative from BEL here a few minutes ago. I would have asked him, but I can't.
It's a pity I couldn't call, but anyway, it seems hard to me that on a democratic system as we go through a lot of places in the Caribbean, you can't just decide that you want to put your solar panel because maybe it's better for you. No, you could do it, but you gotta pay. So that's where my wondering in my mind, how far are we in democratic freedom? Assalamu alaikum. Thanks for your time.
All right then, sir. Yeah. Our number here is 280-5848. It looks another call. Welcome, caller.
Yeah, good morning, Nuri. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, wa alaikum assalam.
I'm calling to ask about information concerning the Universal Negro Improvement Association and the situation with the Liberty Hall on Barak Road.
Yeah.
Your media platform serves an excellent vehicle for black consciousness. And I'm missing your documentaries or your movies and so on, so I don't know what's going on. So your media house is an excellent platform, as I said before, to continue educating the Belizeans, especially concerning the plight of the black man. Thanks very much.
All right then, sir. Yeah, thought he would have elaborated a little bit more on that. It is indeed a platform that has a history going back over 50 years of speaking to the upliftment of black people in this country. But, it was not intended to be a racist, narrow-minded discussion on the issue. As a matter of fact, if you go back in the history, we spoke in terms of the black, the brown, the red, and the yellow. And so, it's very important that when we speak about black, that people don't get the idea that, I am mestizo, I am higher than talk, but it's very important that we don't lose sight of that. and think that we have some narrow agenda and go find your own history because we to deal with we history. We're not in that day and time. In fact, we have evolved even beyond that to recognize that there's a common denominator, and if you want to find a common denominator, really it's the human race. It's the situation that is affecting human beings. And if you want to speak to really the consciousness that people should have, you need to be able to strike a chord that regardless to which ethnicity or race you are, that language that the people are using at this forum can resonate with you, rather than you hearing and say, oh, that's enough for me, that's only for black people. And so I think we have evolved, I certainly have evolved, to a point where we are looking for common ground. We're looking for common ground because the enemies now are coming at us in many colors, even though they seem to be concentrated among a certain group, a certain race. They are really not only of that race, but we can find people of different race taking on that mentality and being just as oppressive as the original colonial masters. So we can't fool ourselves into thinking that the skin color or the amount of melanin you have in your body is going to give you a pass. You need to understand that nowadays you even have people who look like you that are oppressing you. And you also have to understand that there is a kind of leftover from many, many years ago where we are overlooking this idea of us being victims. We certainly are victims historically. We've been brought through a system of oppression that still exists today. But if you sit back and get only into what people have done for you and not recognize that you got to do for yourself, that you also have a responsibility to yourself and your children to take on what you have found. Not to say, oh, this is what they do to me and this is what they do to me, because that creates a dependency syndrome in your people, and your children will pick it up, and all they do is look for why and who is got me in this situation, rather than using what they have within them, God-given energy, talent, power, to change their own condition. So yes, I do agree that it is important that that aspect of our history that we have not understood needs to be told, and we need to nurture our children to understand some of the conditions that they are faced with today are inherited conditions. But it is good to understand history. But it's important to understand that history is not all that we need to learn, but we need to learn how to navigate the realities that we're facing today, understanding how we got to where we are. We cannot know how we're going forward without understanding how did I get here? How is it that when we look at the equation here, we find so many black youths in the condition that they are? But if we think that it's only black youths and not go outside the parameters and see that there are a lot of youths who may not be oppressed in economic conditions, but look at the mentality of some of your young people who are walking around hopeless. American young people are many times, if you're studying it, and I certainly am, are walking around with affluence around them, but empty inside. No soul, no understanding. So this system that was used to bring us down as a people has been mastered now to bring other people down likewise. So I'm saying to the brother who called and anyone else interested in what I'm saying, that we have a responsibility to not get ourselves too locked in narrow and say, oh, we look out for black people. Yes, we're looking out for black people. But the language that we are using is also freeing other minds and freeing other people who are just as much trapped in this thing called mental slavery. We'll take our next break and come back, and hopefully our guests will be here by that time. Welcome back. This is WUB Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. It's about 2 minutes now after 8 o'clock. And our telephone numbers here, as you can see on the screen, 2805848. And you can feel free to weigh in as our first two callers did. And the forum is open, and you could deal with what the two callers or the caller before dealt with, which is the issue that confronts us as black people. He talked about the Liberty Hall and the UNIA, which is a significant part of our history that many of us still do not understand. The UNIA stands for the United Negro Improvement Association, UNIA. The use of the word Negro at that time was considered respectable, interestingly. We kind of got away from that, so that by the time we were young, we refused to associate ourselves with that name because we felt that that name was a reflection of a name given to us by our former slave masters. And so we preferred to use the term black. And black was almost a striking kind of mental gymnastic that we had to do because we were associating black with something that we did not want to acknowledge, that we were black, that we are Africans. We were really into trying to distance ourselves from that. But by the time we got into the 50s and the 60s, the use of the word black became more popularized. In fact, one of the individuals who popularized the use of the word black was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the leader of the Nation of Islam at that time, who said we need to stop thinking that something is wrong with ourselves as black people. And he used that word to the point where his organization became known as the Black Muslims. Actually, it's a name that was given by a researcher, Eric C. Lincoln, who researched the organization and to make the distinction between those Muslims in the United States and the Arab Muslims, which was the predominant concept of Muslims, is that he referred to them as the Black Muslim, and that became a word coined. But the Marcus Garvey movement of the UNIA was a far more widespread movement than the Nation of Islam, which was confined primarily to the United States until it started to break out, Belize being one of the first that broke out of the United States and formed that organization in another country. We don't know that Belize was on that first group that broke away, not broke away, but that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad stretched out of the United States and established the Nation of Islam chapter in Belize. But the UNIA, when you look at it, way back in the 20s, had membership all over the world. Here in Belize, we had chapters of the UNIA in Belize and in Dangriga. As a matter of fact, some of the heroes that we talk about in our history were members of the UNIA, which includes T.B. Ramos, which includes Anthony Sabranes, which includes Mr. Betson, and so many others were members of that early group. Welcome, caller.
Assalamu alaikum once again, Brother Nuri.
Yes, sir. Walaikum
You have
assalam.
stated some very, very good points before the break, and I pray Allah for you because you are, like many of us, try to liberate our people or bring people to our consciousness of who we are. One of the things I used to like with my uncle, a lot of people say Uncle Sam. I don't have no Uncle Sam. My uncles Marcus Garvey and Nelson Mandela and others. They opened Marcus Garvey's main aim, I love it, back to Africa. Now, in Belize, it's very important to continue this struggle to uplift our people to consciousness and to know themselves. Mutabaruka say, if you don't know from whence you came, you are due to live in shame. I recall the time when I was down on Albert Street as a street smart vendor with Baramin, if you remember Baramin, the Jamaican that used to sell the whole wheat bread.
Yes.
And it was so sad for us that whenever we address maybe one of our young sisters as a black queen, why she feel offended? They look back on us like we have said a terrible thing to them. But all praises be to Allah that eventually they kind of start to accept it or understand it due to the propaganda in the USA with Nefertiti and these different stories about Egyptian history. All praises be to Allah. But also to wrap it up, because I like to listen to you and maybe other people want to call. Up to this day, it's sad to hear people telling their own children that the other children, which is a different ethnicity, have good hair, but your hair is tough hair. That's sad, but again, I understand they are naive. They don't know the history. When you know your history, you will not live in shame. Salam alaikum.
All right, wa alaikum assalam. Thank you. Yes, indeed. The idea of acceptance of who you are is an issue that is still with us today. The fight, and we always give credit to the courage, the intestinal fortitude of Sister Yaya to take on these challenges, even if she has to do it single-handedly. And now she's taken on the challenge to challenge not only the school, but the very government to say you need to put in policy that children should not be discriminated against because of the texture of their hair. You cannot get into this good hair, bad hair idea in a subtle way. Certainly, if any child comes to school with the hair unkempt, unclean, and got lousy in their head and things like that, and you need to be able to discriminate effectively to make sure that child doesn't affect other children, or the decorum of making sure that you spend a little time combing your hair and grooming your hair before you come to school, all of that is acceptable. But if you are subtly saying certain styles of hair, particularly coming from Afro-descendant young children, that there's something wrong with that hair, that you are perpetuating that idea of good hair, bad hair. I gotta tell you, that was even more predominant in our time, years and years ago, that women used to put a hot iron on the stove, heat up that iron. I don't know if they still got hot iron wrong nowadays, but they put this piece of metal on the fire, and then they would, rub it a couple of times to get off the soot. And then they would take the woman's hair and run that hot comb through the hair in order to take out the kinks. And why? Because the standard of beauty that was coming at us, Hollywood picked it up first, but before Hollywood, it was religion that used it. And this wasn't Christ's teaching. This was the colonial use of the teachings of Christ to Europeanize Christ and to make it look as though this Jew that was born in Palestine, that was brown hair and kinky hair, was in fact the picture that this famous artist, Michelangelo, painted of his cousin, and that's what feminized Christ. A revolutionary turned into gentle Jesus, meek and mild. Look upon this little child. And we were so much adored that we didn't realize that two things were happening. First, we were making a man God, which was a blasphemy because God cannot be a man. And then secondly, we were saying that God so loved the world that he gave his son in the Caucasian race. And say all of us were looking at this picture painted by Michelangelo, a European, and we were assuming that that is the reflection of God. So when that went to Africa, it changed the mentality of Africans to think, well, God must have loved them people because God is white. It went to China. It went to the Koreans. It went to the Maya. And certainly it went to the African. And wherever you go and see that doctrine, you see a leaning more towards lighter skin. In Guatemala, there's a distinction between the born indigenous dark-skinned Guatemala, Guatemalan, darker complexion people are the people marginalized at the bottom, and look at the ones who come to the top, light skin. And so that same situation affected us here in Belize. I was talking to somebody recently who reminded me that when he was young, that even though he was dark, he was always, like had the struggle to prove himself, whereas the lighter skinned child, by the way in which the teacher didn't say, oh, I like him better, but by the way the teacher related with the child, it made him feel that the girl will have one hair or the boy will got one hair different than his was somehow better. And we've heard it, and maybe you didn't hear it, but I certainly heard it with my own ear, that young girls were told, girl, you better lighten up your color, which means not marry them black boy and then I come with some derogatory monkey and then kind of the broad nose and then big lip and you don't want your picnic look like that. Who you want your picnic look like? Physically, somebody that was lighter skin and the hair. And yes, we still got it today. We still have women who put $200-300 into, what you call this thing here, where they plait in extensions, so that they could fling their hair around. Where'd that come from? We're not born with any kind of hair, and if you were, thank God, that is you by nature. But we were taught that, you want to be more like that image, and that image was part of the deep psychological impact that only affected us as people of color, but also in their own European scheme of things, the brunette was considered someone less than the blonde. And the blonde and the blue eye was somehow supposed to be better. Who made her better? What made him better? The whole system was designed like that, but it started in putting religious images into human form. Nowhere do you find in the Jewish religion, in the Islamic religion, that you find people putting divine personage of prophets and messengers into images. The Bible says, thou shalt not have images. That is part of the 10 Commandments, to keep people away from identifying God and God's servants in physicalized image, because what it makes you do, it makes you somehow, and let me tell you, you got some Muslims nowadays that are just as much caught up with that. Don't you see the amount of Muslims that are walking around with long Arab clothes, thinking that somehow by looking at like an Arab, that somehow that makes him Muslim? It doesn't say that in the book of Allah, that somehow you have to look like an Arab, somehow you have to wear Arab clothes, and somehow that is the clothes that makes you closer to God. So we need to understand that this imaging of religion has then gone to Madison Avenue, so that we think the blonde, blue eye, and the straight hair is somehow better. Welcome, caller.
Blessed morning.
Blessed morning, bro.
Who is Nuri?
Nuri.
I think most there. But anyways, I just want to see my nose hold up their head and keep things going the way it's going right now, and wait for that ESOP come up, and make we pass through the issues that's going on. And I say no more. I'm one more so they make a discuss it here.
All right.
But I'm saying no more to see my nose keep up their head, and the union keep doing the right thing. That's right.
All right, my brother. Good. Numbers here is 2805888. 848, and you're welcome to call and to weigh in on your particular subject. Marcus Garvey came to Belize twice, and he had an impact on Belize. And in fact, when you study the history, you'll find out that agitation for rights really started among the followers of Marcus Garvey. The first union that we gave credit to for starting political movement in Belize is the General Workers Union. The General Workers Union was started by followers of Marcus Garvey. And the first General Workers Union was in Dangriga, started in 1943. It started before the office was opened in Belize City at 1949. And it was those radical unionists there dealing with the what you call United Fruit Company and all of these oppressive conditions that they were living in, that they started a General Workers Union. But we don't understand the history. We think that the General Workers Union started in Belize City. No, it started in Dangriga. And it was those radical elements there of that union that came and inspired those who were here in Belize. And so the General Workers Union in Belize branch started in 1949. And it was raw, grassroots people. It was not George Price, it was not Pollard, it was not Philip Golson, it was not Lee Richardson. These were educated college youths that came and helped that union to be what you'd call move into better organizational strategies, because they had the education which they had gotten being students of SJC. They didn't call it sixth form, but there was a group that used to meet upstairs of the old Vogue meeting. I was told by Miss Golap that these were the first, the group that really would be taught by a Jesuit priest who said, "Come, I will teach you about politics." So when they came out of that group, they were radicalized. Radicalized, not that they're trying to bring the government down, but these Jesuits were Americans, Irish, who had their own issue against the British. And so they kind of used these as surrogates to continue their battle, which started in Ireland, against the British suppressing the Irish. And so when these priests, these Jesuits, taught these young people politics, they taught them with the underscoring of checking these British. And that's why the original, oh man, this is a whole history that we need to talk about. That's why they used to fly the American flag instead of the Union Jack, because they were being inspired by this idea that was coming out of America, that people are born with inalienable rights, that you're not a slave, you can challenge the system, you can come up just the way we did in America and challenge the British. So this kind of spirit, and the fact that you had this raw group of Mr. Bedson, you had this raw group of Antonio Sabaranes and these others who were followers of Marcus Garvey, and they used that group to challenge the British, and they agitated and agitated. And in 1950, when the British devalued our dollar, that is when it provoked these youths into forming the committee, and the rest is history. So there's a lot in our history that we are not aware of, and when we speak, we don't give it enough time so that our young people who are certainly distracted, they're not into none of this. They know, there's so much instantaneous time that to stop them and say, wait, I can tell you something about history. It takes time. They get tired. In fact, some of them might read this and say, you only could talk here. This is what they did to us. We can't sit down and have a 1 hour conversation on these issues, because somebody will look on and watch and say, boy, I have to go. Why? Because we're not used to engaging over a long period of time. And I'll tell you, this is a recent thing. Because I could remember sitting in barber shops and sitting in tailor shops and listening to men talking about the Lumumba, talking about Kasavubu, talking about Kenyatta, talking about the African struggle, talking about Ho Chi Minh, talking about these idiots. And they used to listen to the BBC. They never gone to no college, but they used to listen to the BBC, and they were able to have conversations about issues taking place in America, issues happening in Asia, issues happening in Africa, and they were educated. And we, as young people, shut your mouth and listen, and we just sat there and we absorbed and absorbed and absorbed. That's how Belize was at the time when I was growing up, a more intellectual, not intellectual because of college, intellectual because we were thinking, we were hearing, we were debating, we were having conversations, we were able to have older people encourage us to not be distracted. Boy, keep your mind, pay attention to where they try to say. It was that kind of culture that we have. We've kind of lost that. We kind of lost that. All right, it's 24 minutes now after 8 o'clock. We'll take our next break, and we'll be back.
In Belize, we've
right, welcome back. This is WUB, Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. It's a Friday morning, very interesting week with the announcement on Wednesday by the President of the United States that he will be dropping these heavy taxes on goods imported into the United States. China is getting a whopping 34%. This morning I read that they are also going to reciprocate with 34% on the imports going into China. The European Union is being faced with 20%. But what amazed me, while the Caribbean, all of us, Belize included, is being slapped with this 10%, they are putting a 38% on Guyana, much more than China, much more than the European Union. What are we saying about that? What is it about Guyana that would make the Trump administration drop 38% import tax on them? What's going on there? Welcome, caller.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Nuri.
Yeah, wa alaikum assalam, sir.
Brother Nuri, I don't really condemn Mr. Donald Trump. I think it is high time, and it is long overdue, that Central America and the Caribbean, we get our act together in terms of trading among ourselves. Make it much easier to do commerce, to do business, to have workforce between Belize and Jamaica, Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, etc., among ourselves as a CARICOM bloc. For decades, Brother Nuri, many Caribbean governments have lacked this great opportunity that personnel like Burnham, Michael Manley, George Price, etc., Morris Bishop, dreamed for in terms of the integration of CARICOM. And they have been playing a cat and mouse game, and it catch up on us, and now this is what is happening. So they need to take stock now and move expeditiously to offset this great calamity that is going to befall our people if pettiness, like when Jamaicans fly into Belize and you are sending them back to Jamaica because of certain minor discrepancy. You know, these are the pettiness in which our people have been acting among ourselves as one people, as one Caribbean people and one Central American people. Yes, Mr. Trump is doing what he had to do. He promised the American people he was going to do that, and he is in his domain, so leave him alone, let him do what he has to do. One thing we have to bear in mind that major world powers now have pretty much offset that balance in terms of the U.S. having that global dominance in terms of commerce and industry. China's playing a major role. India's coming on board. The BRICS countries is coming on board in terms of their bloc. So that pretty much have the U.S. in a situation where they are looking about their interests, and you don't give a man wrong, speaking plurally, male, female, to seeking about their interests. So we need to do the same thing down on this end. And secondly, Brother Nuri, we had mentioned on Creme and Love FM, only Brother most kind of follow it a bit, given the fact that we are beset with this situation of drugs, Brother Nuri. I propose that we label drug traffickers and gangs as terrorist organization in order to offset what is happening to us, especially our black youths in Belize, exterminating each other. Slavery have cause a calamity on our people, whereby our people, most of our people, not knowing history and culture, have lost their mind about self and kind. So this violence that is being met on our people, killing each other, it is because of lack of knowledge of self. It is lack of not being trained properly in the schools about African history, about Mayan history, etc., etc. So our people have turned on each other as a pack of wolves. So to offset that, to bring Belize to a level of sanity and not to fall into what Mexico is going through or what Colombia went through and still is feeling effect. Let us put some stringent measure in place to say, look, this drug trafficking thing is terrorism. This gang thing is terrorism, and it could be meted out with serious laws that could get you guys to know that, hey, we are a country of law, and if you're not going to abide by the law, then there are repercussions to be meted out on you. Because, Brother Nuri, God forbid that we know that they're attacking our police officers. God forbid that it goes against our judiciary, and then it will be total chaos and anarchy in our country, and we don't want that. The leader, or the former leader of the opposition, Brother Shine, he made mention we are a country pretty much as a failed state, and we are a narco state, quoting from what he said. Now, I would not go as far as to say that, but we are in a very, very serious situation when we have the major players in Guatemala and Mexico and elsewhere that is taking our country as their playground to bring down these aircraft with whatever type of, illicit drugs or whatever. Hey, it is serious, Brother Nuri. So that is my comment for today. I'm going to see what you say about it.
All right. Well, no, I think what you're saying, Dawood, is very relevant in the conversation today. The Mexican government is looking to identify the cartel as terrorist organizations. Trump has done that long ago. Bukele has also referred to them as terrorists and should be treated extrajudicially. In other words, you need to do what you have to do to contain and to wipe out these people. When you apply it to Belize, we should have a conversation to see if using that sledgehammer approach is where we are in our own fight against drugs. Is it at that level? If it can be justified at that level, and the people say so, then we'd move in that direction. But I am not sure, being on the ground, that we are at that point in Belize. I think that what we're doing with an orchestrated program that does not only include the police, we can still arrest what we're dealing with now. But if we are not careful and we slacken up and don't use and work with what we have, we can let this monster, and it is a monster, because you're pointing out the amount of young people that are being killed, but the amount of young people that are being killed is not always over drug. It's not always over cartel fighting one another. It has an element there, but we do have an issue here with young people who really are willing to use the gun instead of learning how to argue and how to debate. The availability of guns, having a porous border that we have, every time the police collects 10 guns, there's 20 guns replacing it on the street, because guns are coming in through these porous borders, and sometimes guns are being used as a form of payment in some of the drug transaction. So I'm saying that what you are pointing out is while it is alarming, and while we didn't used to think like this or put our own people in the category of being terrorists, there's an argument. As you know, there is a looming SOE that is not far away. Up to yesterday, you heard the Minister of National Security, Home Affairs, saying once again that it's still on the table. The decision has not been finalized, but because of the problems that we still continue to see despite the last SOE, and the fact that while that SOE was implemented for at least a month or more after, that the type of gang-related murders went down significantly. We're beginning again to see the rise, and so SOE is back up on the table. And so it is a problem that cannot be resolved with just one form of action. It has to be a comprehensive move towards addressing an issue that will not go away by speeches. It will not go away by draconian moves. It will not go away only by police action. It has to be attacked in a comprehensive way in order for us to ensure that the little seedlings, the one that we know him look like they in a gang, but have that same kind of mentality growing in them, has to be also addressed so that we could ensure that we're not only going one way, but we're going at it in a more comprehensive way. When you look at the actions of Bukele and why he was as strict as he was, is because you were seeing hundreds, literally hundreds of innocent civilians being caught up in the drug war. We're not at that point. We are serious and we are worse than we were 20 years ago, but we're not at the point where we're seeing over 1,000 of our people being killed innocently. I'm talking about non-combatants being caught up in these notorious gangs, shooting and fighting each other, even in marketplaces and supermarkets and in churches, because they are just animals, you could say. Don't care anymore, will kill whoever. And so Bukele took this position that he's going to lock you down indefinitely, extrajudicial, to make sure we suspend constitutional rights, we suspend all these rights, because in their mind and in his language, they're dealing with animals. So we're not at that point yet. But that warning that you are giving there, Dawood, is the reason why I believe that the SOE is on the table, because we cannot afford for that genie to get out of the bottle, because in a small country like us, it will be very, very difficult to try to put that genie back in the bottle. We'll take our final break and we'll come back.
Take a deep breath. You feel that energy coursing through your
All right, welcome back. Our number's here, 280-5848. You're welcome to call and to weigh in. Thank you to callers who have called in and put out their feelings on certain issues. The other thing that the last caller mentioned was that Mr. Trump is looking out for his own national concerns, and their argument is their argument, and we have to be careful that we don't get too much into for them politics. It is their politics. They elected him. He had a substantial win. He didn't have no little marginal win. He had a substantial win, which indicates that the majority of Americans in fact voted for him and want him there and believe in the idea of him making America great again. A lot of the discriminations and them being against DEI, which is diversity, equality, and inclusion, that they don't want that. And while we have these groups of people of color who are complaining about it, within the scope of America, they are a minority. And the majority who voted for that man, in fact, had problems with this concept of DEI. In fact, I've heard one pundit say that they've had a problem with the advancement of people of color in that country going as far back as the Civil War between the southern states and the northern states. And they had a gripe that, in fact, the northern states, which they considered more liberal than the conservative states of the South, took the lead. And the laws, in fact, that the discrimination laws that were formulated, that were federal laws, were coming out of the North, forcing the South that you got to desegregate your schools. And they were saying, no, these people are not equal to us. These people come out of a system where they were beneath us, and they're not ready to be equal with us. And they had this as their legitimate argument that black people was not equal to them. And so when the North, who won the war, Civil War, started to impose these federal laws, and when you impose a federal law, it is over your state law. You could have a state law that keeps discrimination in your state, saying separate but equal, which is what they were pushing, an idea that let the Negroes be over here and let the whites be over here. That was established in some of these states. But when the federal government, which was run more by that northern idea that everybody is equal, so-called, they imposed on this southern area that you're going to open the school for these children and they're going to walk in. So when you see Brown versus the education, that wasn't like America has come out. That was a war against these two groups. And that group has been griping and griping all through this whole process in the United States. And so some pundits, pundits are saying, people who think and reason with these ideas, they say, this is the return of that in Donald Trump. That is the return of this idea in the 2025 document, that these people are saying that the federal government has been taken over by these liberalists who want to change our great America, which comes out of this southern manhood idea, this conservative Christian mentality that these liberals have been attacking. So when Trump got there, Trump was not the one that came up with these ideas. He rode the crescent as a good man, as you saw him. He's a very good organizer. He rode that crescent, and he got himself into the White House the second time. And he believes and is showing that he thinks that he is working for his people to make America great again, that these liberals, that these people in the North had watered us down, equal rights, pushing people by the 1964 Civil Rights Law, that they've pushed these people into colleges that they were not qualified because of this affirmative action. They've pushed people into federal government's jobs because they were not qualified. And then when the women's movement started to take advantage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, then they also used that act to say, we want a certain amount of women in there. It was first started to address the problem of black people in America, but they also got a chance to use that for their advancement inside of that system. And then as the liberals started to move more and more up, then you started to see the homosexuals, the lesbians, and others in that society saying, we're equal too. Stop marginalizing us. We also have a right. And so they also became of this idea of the DEI, that they were federally had the right to receive funds from the federal government in order to do their own programs, whereas years ago, they were marginalized. They were not allowed, just as blacks were not allowed, just as women were not allowed. This whole wave of liberalism that affected the American body politics started to allow people who were outside. So now if you go to America because of this DEI, you will find people who are in wheelchairs behind what you call the cash register. You'll find people who may have a certain disability having the right now to make their living because of the DEI. And they were offended by this. You also had these new Belize, new Americans that were coming in from the Philippines, from Mexico, and these other places, based on these federal laws, say you must hire some of these people, you must put them in these areas. So you, like, if you go into some places in America, I was there some months ago, you know, you go in a Walmart, it's like all Filipino, who can't even talk clearly to you in the English language, but because of DEI, they must be hired. And so Walmarts, Targets, and these places were forced to hire and place these people based on the federal law. So there was, American whites were like grinning at the teeth. I mean, these people are not Americans. They can't even speak English. When you go into the store, they speak to you in Arabic, or they speak to you in Chinese, or they speak, and they're saying, damn, why don't you be an American? You're in America, stop talking that language. So there was a groundswell of saying, God, send us somebody who could take us back to where it was. And here comes Trump. And now Trump is like executing that idea. We're going to make America white again. And that's the mentality that's going on. So I appreciate what Brother Dawood was saying just now, that in fact, while it is good sociology, it's good examination, that's enough for we problem down here. And so, cow no belong in a horse gallop. If we jump in there and think that, oh, if it ain't thing that we think, no. So maybe by the pressure that he's putting on us, we will do something that we've been talking about for years. Go and read the document of Che Ramos and see if it wasn't about us trading with one another, and you, Trinidad, send stuff to Belize, Belize will send something over to Barbados, see if that is not what originally was the CARICOM idea. No, the CARICOM idea is like every man for himself. Everybody going with their own hat to America to see if they can negotiate for their 10%. As opposed to us seeing the reality of going back to what Chaga Ramos was about. That you sit at the table and say, what is it that will affect us? Why is it that we still can't take a plane from Belize and fly to Barbados? Why is it that we have to go up to Miami and then overnight in Miami in some cases, then fly down? Why do we have to be in that expense when it's so easy, when the closest distance between 2 points is a straight line? We're right here to Jamaica, but you can't go to Jamaica. You got to go up somewhere to Miami. You got to go out way miles away from you, and then you have to fly back down. So maybe Trump will force us to deal with the reality of what we've been just talk. What has CARICOM been doing for us? The reality. What has it been doing for us except these regional heads of government talk where we posture? And what is the significant move, is it? Is it in the economy? It certainly is not. We only got what? Ice cream and some chicken and something going across into Trinidad and a couple of these other places. What about all these goods and services that we're getting from America that we could get directly in the Caribbean? But what's wrong with we? You know, look at boy, Jamaica, you know, as good as America, you know, not realizing that you get Chinese stingray inferior because it come from states you think it better. And the Guyanese or the Trinidadian or the Barbadian product may be just as good, but because of the fact that you're so used to thinking America is better and their product is better, even though it's Chinese, you think that, I don't want to deal with the Caribbean. And then I used to remember, because I was in the Chamber of Commerce at one time, oh man, I don't want to deal with any CARICOM, and I don't even know why they start CARICOM, because of course, to be fair, I was there about maybe 35 or more years ago. But I haven't seen that significant a change now in terms of commerce. I haven't seen us can go to the shelf where you got beer, you got it, called Presidente, and a few things like that. But there are a lot of products coming out of Jamaica. There are a lot of products coming out of our Caribbean brothers and sisters. And the trade should be so easy. We should have the vision of Marcus Garvey, where we have ships that are moving here back and forth, taking our goods and exchanging our goods. So maybe Trump will force us into a situation that we should have been in a long time ago. But we are not, you know, we kind of like, I remember back in the 80s, some of you old enough to remember, when it was Reagan that started a thing called the Caribbean Basin Initiative. Go back and Google it. And the Caribbean Basin Initiative supposedly was a handout to the Caribbean where they would create a situation which their theory was that it would have a trickle-down effect. In other words, we will help build up that middle-class business, we try to help that upper-class business, and then hopefully it will trickle down to the poorer classes and they would be able to be. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. And so you had people like Eugenia Charles, like Tom Adams of Barbados, Eugenia Charles of St. Lucia, I believe she was, going individually to sit down with Mr. Reagan to work out for their own deal with Mr. Reagan, left Belize behind, left Jamaica behind. So we don't even got with unity together. We quick forgot that the white man and say, make I do my own individual negotiation with you because I want to be on the front line of this thing. I hope, and I think that's what Dawood was saying, that as a result of this new equation that we are faced with, and what Mr. Jody Williams from the Chamber of Commerce was saying in the interview this morning, that we recognize that we got a goal in front of we here. Look, when you go back and look at CLR James, and people like Eric Williams, who originally came up with the idea of a Caribbean unity, growing out of the idea of a Caribbean federation. Do you know that that was before the European Union? That we were spearheading the idea of intercommunal work within our region to form a common market, even before the Europeans were thinking about their European Union? They've left us behind. They've developed an idea now where they've not only worked it out economically, but they also have like a government that sits together and look over the interests of the European nations. We started it. We introduced the idea. Go and Google it. You'll find that it was Eric Williams, it was CLR James, it was all these great minds in the Caribbean that came up with the concept that if federation never worked, here is our own thing of doing. And then Google the Chagaramos Agreement and see if all of these things were not there many years ago, and then look at the reality and see how we have not done. We can't even take one plane across to Jamaica, man. We still have to fly up somewhere there. I remember when Nisbet and them and Schumann and them started BAL. You remember that? BAL. It was our own Belizean airline that we were supposed to be able to fly from here to Jamaica. You know what we said? Lad, you didn't get a whole plane, yeah. An American airline came right in here and said, we'll provide it for you. He said, man, you don't want the American plane better anyway. So we got deep psychological issues that is culturally inherited. This belief that other than ourselves is better than ourselves is still embedded in us. And maybe, as the brother said, the caller said, maybe when it's our back is against the wall is when we'll be forced to reckon and not have our next generation inherit this same crazy mental disease is really what it is. If you can't see across the way that that is your brother and that up there is not your brother, then you are still being affected by this thing called mental slavery. Anyway, we've come to the end of our program this morning. We've rattled on a little bit, maybe too much. We hope that what we've said has some benefit. As they say, he who has ears to hear will hear. Those who have eyes to see will see. The others will just be left to deal with the circumstances. It's now a few minutes after 9 o'clock, and we have to thank Anthony Grant downstairs in our simulcast. Upstairs, we have the one and only Christy Flowers as our MCO this morning, and of course, Mr. Clifton Lewis was our all-around person here today. We appreciate your being with us. We thank all the callers for coming. We thank the Belize Cycling Association, Federation, I should say, and also Mr. Enriquez from BEL as our guest today. Belizeans, stand strong, stand firm, do the right thing, and for now, we gone.
Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep